Alright, what's going on, guys? It's the Mod here, and today we are going to be making a video on Johnny Silverhand himself. So usually I do these videos on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, but they're honestly just becoming too long, so I wanted to do a really expansive one over here on YouTube. So, born Robert John Linder, he was an influential rocker boy. I mean, when it comes to rocker boy, like, he is the rocker boy pretty much. Like, obviously there were other pretty notable rocker boys that I can also get into later on, but for namesake, he was a rocker boy, right? He led the band of Samurai, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. You hear their music, you've seen their members and all that throughout the game. And if you're new to the cyberpunk verse, well, this is a band of, well, just musicians. Not all of them are actually just like violent and or like terrorist like Johnny. You know, they are actual musicians, and they have a very successful band. Now, in the world of Night City, you know, that might not be enough for survival, so they're equipped to kill you if they have to, but their first primary goal is to be a successful band. Now, that's enough about Samurai. So, Johnny Silverhand got his nickname, of course, from his silver hand. Now, this was because he was actually in the war, the Second Central American War, right? So Johnny's a war veteran, and he actually lost his arm during that war, so they gave him a cybernetic implant. Now, this right here changed Johnny forever, and obviously he got a new arm, but it changed him in a way where he was just different mentally. And this is one of the most prominent sources of, what I like to call casual cyberpsychosis, or I've seen someone else call it functional cyberpsychosis. Johnny is a cyberpsycho. I mean, he kind of does whatever he wants and whatever he sees to be fit. He enlisted in the military as a teenager, so like he lied about his age, and they were just like, okay. And he was just like a teenager, and he was in war. So he got sent to Nicaragua, the second conflict. He is a true war veteran. He wound up staying at a hotel in Pacifica for an entire month while he was just trying to get back on his feet. The war just changed his life in a way that he could never exactly imagine for, and this is when he kind of became Johnny Silverhand, leaving his old Robert John Linder behind and becoming Johnny Silverhand. Now, I think it's really important to note that the war and him losing his arm and getting a cybernetic, so with his mental state already being at such a fragile level with him being in the war, he then lost his arm, lost one of his best friends, and then it was replaced by a cybernetic, and his brain simply could not handle all of that. So we see Johnny Silverhand, the cyber psycho samurai. Now, he started it with Carrie, who was actually a good friend of his and still really is. Johnny's an asshole, so he doesn't really treat him that well, but they are great friends. So the members of Samurai were Johnny, Carrie, Denny, Nancy, and Henry. Johnny essentially became the rocker boy, and he started this rocker boy movement. And it was essentially like an overnight sensation. I mean, like, it was in the snap of a finger, Samurai was on top and making hits. Johnny, he was one of the most popular musicians at the time, so he gained a massive ego, along with his cyber psychosis, making him extremely irrational and seemingly bipolar at times. At some point, Johnny gets in a relationship with Rogue, and Rogue ends that relationship because Johnny cheated on her. After Rogue breaks up with Johnny, eventually Johnny goes and sees Alt. Him and Alt go on a walk, and they, you know, eventually Arasaka hitmen come after them, and they take Alt and seemingly kill Johnny. Johnny's actually saved, and he gets to a Ripper dock, and he's all fixed up, I guess. So after they take Alt and seemingly kill Johnny, after he's a bit healed up, and then he goes and gathers a team. He gets the media, he gets Rogue, and he gets Santiago. Not without struggle, but he eventually convinces them to come. Johnny actually calls a really genius diversion by gathering a band show with Samurai, of course, and it's entirely free, held right in front of Arasaka Tower. Eventually, this leads to a riot, and Arasaka puts all of their troops in front, and they're essentially panicking because of this massive riot that's caused by Johnny Silverhand, an activist for anti-corporation movements. So while this is taking place, Johnny and his team are actually able to infiltrate the tower. There's not as many people that they have to worry about because a lot of them are, you know, dealing with the riot at their front door. Essentially, they have to take out a bunch of people. One of them's named Akira, and yeah, they get to Alt, but not before Alt is pretty much gone. And Yeah, it's bad. It becomes very bad. So in one of the Cyberpunk books, we actually get information that after that assault to save Alt that essentially failed, Santiago and Johnny go to leave and join the Aldecado's nomad community, which I think is a very interesting point that I don't remember being made in the game. 2023 comes around, and Johnny comes back to Night City. Him, Morgan Blackhand, Rogue, Shaitan, Spider were all present and a part of a team in a story of what is known as the Fall of the Towers. So here I'm going to be reading kind of almost directly what Cyberpunk Red tells us about the Fall of the Towers. Now Johnny's narration of it is very unreliable, and he remembers himself more of a hero and not working with a lot of people, and a lot of things that he remembers aren't exactly what happens. So the events that happen in the game aren't necessarily the full truth. Here is exactly how it went. Johnny Silverhand led what was called Team Alpha, and it was a couple of Militech Special Ops, a portion of the Aldecados. This portion of the Aldecados was actually known as the Lobos, a solo Rogue, Shaitan, and the media, Lyle Thompson. And also, never to forget, the Netrunner, Spider Murphy. This task force dropped in on an AV at the top of Arasaka Tower. This part we can remember as much from the game, just, you know, imagine there being more people there. Their mission was to save Alt, still, because she was trapped in Arasaka's network, and they wanted to destroy Soul Killer, which was kind of what trapped her. So after they eventually get into the building, they rush to the labs where Spider can actually get to the computers and contact Alt so she can rescue her, because Spider's the Netrunner and Alt is essentially a part of the net at this point. Spider's actually able to transfer Alt into her data suitcase, and then she uploads a virus to try to destroy Soul Killer from the Arasaka network. And Thompson, however, who was a media at this time, who was pretty much recording everything, asked, "Hey Spider, what's that you're putting into the Arasaka network?" And she lied to him and said that it was information about the development team and basic corporate knowledge that she was downloading. But really, she was uploading a virus to destroy the network. So the Alpha team was then, at this point, just suddenly attacked by Atom Smasher. While everything was seemingly going smooth, the boogeyman shows up. The Aldecados, they go down, you know what I'm saying? And Thompson, the media, he should have never been there in the first place, so he gets badly injured, of course. And then the rest of the team is pretty much pinned in the lab. So Johnny, being one of the last lines of defenses, notices that Atom Smasher is making his way there. He has an SMG in one hand and the Malorian on the other. Now, let's talk a little bit about his Malorian. It's a special customized weapon that has a flamethrower attachment on it that was made specifically for Johnny with the brand Malorian, the manufacturer for weapons. Now, in the Cyberpunk verse, having your own weapon is kind of like getting a shoe deal. I mean, you know, like, he was a big deal, so this was his gun, right? And he decided to provoke Atom Smasher in typical Rocker Boy fashion. He emptied all of his weapons on Atom Smasher to try to distract him so that Spider could just continue to do her job in this dire situation. Smasher was not happy about that. He turned around and one-tapped him. I'm not kidding. He turned around, fired his auto shotgun, and it cut Johnny in half. I mean, but then Shaitan, who's a pretty big, also Borg-like guy, took this advantage to actually grapple Smasher, and he was able to immobilize him for a little bit, telling the rest of the crew to get out of there and to leave. Spider was actually able to reach Silverhand, but Rogue stopped her from fully trying to grab him, saying that he was gone. Spider reaches inside of her pocket as Rogue is stopping her and pulls out a data slug that Alt gave her a long time ago. Whispering to Johnny that she was sorry, she inserted the chip into the dying Rocker's skull. She then tried to reach her data suitcase, but soon realized it was destroyed in the crossfire. The whole thing was for nothing. She wished Alt good luck, and Spider helped Rogue and survive and some of what was left of the surviving Lobos, aka Aldecados, and dragged the wounded Thompson media into the elevator. Spider knew that eventually, with what she inserted into his head, not only Johnny, but Bartmos would be avenged. And then we get what is possibly one of the most epic things in the entire history of Cyberpunk: the rooftop. So as the Team Alpha was extracting on their AB, one of the Aldecado Lobos was like, well wait, where's Morgan Blackhand? As soon as we landed, he grabbed a really heavy suitcase and just disappeared down a stairwell. And as they were lifting off to leave Arasaka Tower, they see Morgan Blackhand and Atom Smasher going at it one-on-one on the rooftop of Arasaka Tower. And as the AV is going away into the distance, a nuke goes off at the top of the building. I mean, seriously, one of the most epic things in the entire Cyberpunk verse. This anomaly of Morgan Blackhand and an anomaly of Adam Smasher going at it one-on-one on the rooftop. And then seconds later, as they're drifting off away from the building, as if he knew they were a safe distance away, a nuke goes off. Now, in my opinion, this version of the story, which is the true version of the story, is a much cooler version than what Johnny tells. But that is also the end of Johnny Silverhand. So Johnny didn't exactly want himself to be remembered as a guy who got turned around on and one-tapped. I mean, he literally got one-tapped. So he probably didn't want to really tell that story to V. He still has a big ego, and he doesn't really want to fracture that. So in 2077, we see Johnny. He goes through a lot of different character arcs in terms of him growing as a person, and I would say that by the end of the series, his friendship with V and the journey that you go on changes him entirely as a person, and he might even go back to that Robert Linder before he was Cyber Psycho. Maybe he went through true rehabilitation while in Mikoshi or while in V. And that was the story of Johnny Silverhand, the Rocker Boy. If you did make it to the end of the video and you want to see more Cyberpunk content, I've got a bunch of shorts content over there. And if you want to see even more Cyberpunk videos, those are coming soon. But for now, watch this one.